Making promises you can't keep. Where's my $5,000 check, Elon?
Okay, so this week, a lot of people are thinking and talking about Elon Musk, where he's going, what he's doing. Well, after pretty disastrous Tesla earnings, shareholders were not feeling good. Sales are down in the US, sales are down in Europe, sales are down in a big way in China. Elon Musk's involvement in the United States federal government has been terrible for his brand. And on the earnings call, the only positive thing he was talking about was automated driving, robo-taxis. And basically, he's been telling that story for years, saying it's coming this year, next year, hasn't happened yet. But the shred of hope he did give shareholders is that he's going to refocus his attention, not leave Doge, not get rid of Doge, but refocus his attention on Tesla and leave DC and head back to Texas. But if you were thinking Doge is over, think again. None of the Doge teams are leaving. Their mission is not over. He is still going to be overseeing Doge. And just listen to what the president said when he was asked about it.
He didn't need to do this. He did it. And I told him, I said, you know, whenever you're ready, I'd like to keep him for a long time, but whenever you're ready, I heard him say that he'll start easing, which is always, he was always at this time going to ease out. We have to at some point let him go and do that. And we expected to be doing it about this time. But I'll talk to...
But if you thought Doge was going away, look closer, because their mission is still the same. And now, in fact, it might be harder to track exactly what Elon Musk is doing because he's now going to be in DC. Now he's going to be directing them from a bit further away, but that means you have to pay attention a little closer.
So, if you guys remember, earlier this year, not too far back, Doge was tasked with taking out all the corruption in the United States. And if they saved enough money, at first the original goal, I believe, was $2 trillion. It is now down to $150 billion. Notice the claims of savings up there, $10 billion more. That would be the trigger for the process to get $5,000 checks to the American public. Bunch of details and conditions around it, which I was reading about, which doesn't sound at all like the stimulus checks we got during COVID. For example, they're giving the checks out by household instead of person. It has to, of course, pass Congress first. And you have to be at a certain income level to receive the checks. But that's not even one of the larger problems. And there's at least a few. One, with Elon Musk leaving, what exactly is Doge doing now? And there are things that it's doing that may surprise you. We'll get to that in a moment. Two, the actual savings that they have been making have barely made a dent in the spending that this country does. And three, connected with that, the reckless and callous way of which they have been attempting to remove overspending, any fraudulent spending, has been at the cost of around 280,000 people. People, you and me, people who have families and homes and medical bills, only to kick us back $5,000 maybe. But the fraud is, oh yeah, and it gets worse. This is why I showed that video in the beginning, watching more closely with Doge. I didn't expect to read about this. I was just kind of trying to make fun of old Doge boy there. And then I saw this morning. I was like, what? Jeez. Let's read it out loud. Musk's team started by searching for cost savings in federal government. Today, they are Doge, the immigrant hunters. Yeah, they're making a giant database with all of the interactions an immigrant may have had with the government. From what I understand, yes, the government has had access to immigrant information before, but the big difference here is they were all limited in scope for what they could actually gather. Once Doge is done with this project, they have it all, baby. They already do, right? That's what Doge has been in there for. They have access to everything that we've ever had in interaction with the government. And if you are an immigrant, watch out. Don't even get me started on the long-lasting effects from these cuts. Wait a minute. One sec.
Goes into or is supposed to go into here in the U.S. is what then turns around and makes it possible for businesses to thrive.
Can you give us an example of that?
Yeah, my favorite example is probably the smartphone. So have you ever noticed, like, in like talks, or like whenever somebody mentions a smartphone, they like start to pull it out of their pocket or like, touch it. But so the federal government could not have invented the iPhone, right? Like, I don't think any of us would want a phone that was like invented by the federal government.
That thing would suck.
That is like all of the design, the manufacturing, supply chains. That's the kind of thing that corporations can do very well.
Yeah.
And Apple did it very well, and their competitors. But what makes the iPhone work? Well, among other things, the internet. The internet was literally invented by a federal research project. And it would never have been possible to invent the internet with a private company because you wouldn't have got the kind of capital return, even though it's $1 trillion idea or a multi-trillion dollar idea. You know, companies can do multi-billion dollar ideas, but $1 trillion idea, like inventing the internet, that requires basic research. And that's the kind of thing the government's supposed to do, among many other things.
It requires basic research? What is that?
Yeah, by basic research, I mean things that are so fundamental that you actually don't know for 50 or 100 years if they're going to have a return. They might never work out.
Oh, right. Yeah, you can't look at it as this thing is going to be profitable. It has to be
so it's different
benevolent
from,
endeavor for society.
Yeah, it's different from research on like a pharmaceutical company researches a new medication, expecting that, you know, there's going to
have a return in the next, 10, 20 years.
Right, at least kind of within the kind of profit, right?
Yeah.
But
public parks is another version of this and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you can't privatize the public park.
Right, this is the whole idea of public goods. Right?
Sure,
This is why we have governments, why we collect taxes.
God, we're turning into such libs already, dude.
But there's a handshake, right? There are the things that only the government can do, and then there are the things that the private sector can and should do, and they meet in the middle. But if you start shorting, and part of what really worries me right now about this kind of war on academia, and there are some things about academia that need to change, but the war on academia, the cuts to cancer research, the cuts to science research, this kind of like general anti-science like atmosphere that I think is emanating from the administration, like that costs us in ways that don't show up on, a corporate profit and loss statement 6 months from now or a year from now. But in terms of whether a country, a society, an economy is productive and is growing and is innovating, that starts to really cost you over time. And if we're shorting that, or if corporations and extremely wealthy people don't want to be paying into that through taxes, that is, I think, a classic example of kind of short-term gain that causes long-term pain.
That is my biggest problem with the whole Doge thing, is the long-term effects. Have we even cared or considered about it? Why do we think $5,000 and people's livelihoods is okay? Lose and gain in the short term for untold consequences in the future, man. There's going to be misinformation about those consequences for years, decades too. It's going to be crazy. Do they think that we Americans have such small attention spans that we won't notice, we won't realize? Hey, you know what? If you guys hadn't cut all those programs back in the day, we might have been okay today. Let me know what you think. And yeah, we'll talk later.